A 103-year-old Rock County woman is sharing her secret to living for more than a century. Born in 1920, Dorothy Felt of Beloit celebrated her 103rd birthday Wednesday. Felt was the oldest of 9 children and recalls listening to her family's first radio as a child and riding in their Ford car. And after she graduated from Broadhead High School, she married her husband Jay before moving to Evansville to raise their family. Felt says her main secret to a long life is her passion for dancing. Look at her go.
Dancing especially. I used to dance every Friday for years. I danced every Friday night at the Moose Club in Janesville. I played euchre and sheep's head. But dancing, I think, was the main thing that kept me going all these years.
Felt says her diet also contributed to her long life, adding she used to eat onions and apples like candy. Every morning she also does the crossword puzzle. That is good for brain power with a cup of coffee. I like both of those things. Well, very, very happy birthday to you, Dorothy.